Hey everybody, I think I haven't done a live feed on this my personal Facebook page in a long time. If you want to catch me live, I'm usually live at Lakota Law, Lakota People's Law Project or Last Real Indians. But I just wanted to go live because I'm in the nation's capital. I came to the the Native Nations Rising camp on the mall, the National Mall in Washington, D.C., right in front of the National Monument, which is probably the largest phallic symbol monument that we have, maybe on the globe. But it's got teepees. I'm kind of offset from them. I'm in front of the Organization of American States, and I just wanted to provide a quick update on a few things since I last went live on Lakota Law. And we'll be going live tomorrow during the march from Lakota People's Law Project and possibly from Last Real Indians. But since I last went live, the judge in the federal case, Judge Boasberg, has ruled against the Cheyenne River's motion for a preliminary injunction to stop the drilling of the pipeline, the further drilling, and the flowage of oil. He ruled against them based on this doctrine called laches, which means that something that they filed was untimely, that we took too long to file it, or whatever the case may be. But I didn't personally have a lot of faith in those, the Standing Rock case and the Cheyenne River case, just because of the legal theories involved, not anything against, the tribe or their attorneys. They're fully well capable, but sometimes you got to stretch for legal arguments to make. And the appeal process is still there, but that's going to be a tough one. The Oglala Lakota Nation, the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, as it's known in America and in the world, they've got a claim based on the inadequacy or the arbitrary and capricious nature of the Trump administration's action to completely do away with the environmental impact statement process, which was started under the Obama administration. And so the tribe is claiming that they can't legally do that. Like, that's what that process was designed to do, was to provide a legal vetting process for projects that could have potentially, detrimental or disastrous impacts on the environment. And that's kind of a very quick legal update. There are treaty leaders, there are people who are thinking how to take this fight to an international level, which I think is prudent. I think that needs to happen. I happened to meet a couple of those leaders as we were walking by the OAS, the Organization of American States. But it's also, something that I need to highlight is the fact that there was a memo unearthed that Energy Transfer Partners, which is constructing the Dakota Access Pipeline, they were drafted, tasked with writing a memo to the Army Corps of Engineers explaining why moving the pipeline from Bismarck, North Dakota to the Standing Rock Reservation, right near the 1889 border or boundary, why that was acceptable. And it's crazy. I haven't read the full report, but you should definitely read it. It's out there on lakotalaw.org and on our Facebook page. But there's two things to highlight from that, and one is that Energy Transfer first of all, a federal agency asking the very corporation, a private corporation that is trying to build this pipeline, to write a memo on how moving the pipeline from Bismarck to Standing Rock is acceptable, because it would in fact impact less non-white populations and poverty-stricken populations in Bismarck, as opposed to Standing Rock, which seems, it's completely counterintuitive, because Bismarck is fairly affluent. According to the numbers, it's 90% or 96% Caucasian, but somehow Energy Transfer Partners convinced the Army Corps of Engineers that the pipeline being north of Bismarck would impact more quote-unquote minorities and more low-income people than if it were to be placed near Standing Rock. Now, and they are being accused of, and rightfully so, I think, of gerrymandering a pipeline. And how they did that, if you look at the metrics, the calculus or the analysis, is at the site of the crossing, they take a half a mile radius and they count the number of households, the number of people living there, and decide whether or not that would be an acceptable risk to that population or to that potential crossing area. Well, where they sited the pipeline is literally 1/20th of a mile. What is that, 4% of a mile maybe? I don't know, somebody do some math out there, but 1/20th of a mile. If they would have moved the pipeline 1/20th of a mile south of where they are now forcing it through military might, then they would have been able to include in their calculus, in their analysis, the entire population of Cannonball and the Standing Rock Nation, the Standing Rock Reservation. So they gerrymandered this pipeline by deliberately placing it 1/20th of a mile north of where they would have had to include that population in their analysis. And so it's completely unacceptable and grotesque that this is happening, that this has happened in that manner. But I wanted to provide that quick update and to let people know that we are out here in support of Native Nations Rising, of the Standing Rock Nation, of the Indigenous Environmental Network, which appears to have been the chief planning and organizers of this march and this encampment. And we need to let people know that the fight is not over. We need to let the world know that the front line is just shifting forms. There is a political fight to be waged, a legal fight, and a frontline fight. It's always been my position that the legal and political fights don't really exist, or at least have the magnitude or the gravitas that we need them to have in order to really bring real pressure to bear on the world or on America or on the policymakers that are ignoring us and making decisions that impact us detrimentally and really are forcing us to bear risks at Standing Rock and Cheyenne River that the city of Bismarck was not made to bear and will not be made to bear. We are made to bear those risks and forced to live in the sacrifice zone at gunpoint. And to be here in the capital of the United States, a country which is only 240 years old, and a country that doesn't really have any legitimate right to be here. It doesn't have any spiritual, religious, legal, or moral authority to even exist, except that which is derived from its international interactions with the original civilizing nations of this hemisphere, and that's us. That's Native nations. And so we've really got to think about that as we move into the 21st century, according to the Gregorian calendar. But we really need to think about our place as Native nations. And that place is not to be oppressed or subjugated, but it is to be liberated spiritually, economically, legally, and politically. And that's what's possible for us right now. But we've just got to stop getting in our own way. But I wanted to provide this quick update because it's beautiful to have Native nations in force here in the nation's capital, and thousands are going to join the march tomorrow, which starts at 10 a.m. but people will be gathering at the Army Corps of Engineers as early as, I would assume, 8 a.m. and then at noon the march ends at Lafayette Square, where there's awesome speakers, awesome entertainers, and I'm happy to come and to support that. And we need to figure out how to make this movement gain a foothold. It's always had roots for the past 500 years. And it gained strength in the 70s with an armed struggle. That's when our people first birthed the idea of going to the international arena. After the armed struggle in 1974, our indigenous nations gathered somehow on Standing Rock at Wakpala, one of our communities, and sent a delegation to Geneva, including Frank Foolscrow, including Francis He Crow. I'm not sure if Louis Redshirt, Louis Badwoon, and Matthew King had gone. Russell Means went. Virgil Killstraight went. Oren Lyons, many of our people, some of them who are still with us. But they went because our original nations have this right to determine our destiny and to be free from oppression. That's all we're ever seeking, is to be treated the way that the Creator intended us to be treated. But I want to thank everybody who's tuned in. I want to give you a heads up before I sign out that if you log on to Lakota People's Law Project, our Facebook page tomorrow, I intend to go live from there at some point during the march. I've got a few interviews to do that I've told them that I would do. But I don't. I don't try not to go live all the time. I try to have something to say before I go live, because I get tired of hearing myself talk after about 12 minutes is what it usually is in all of my travels and all of my talks and my speeches and whatnot. I try to be cogent and exercise some what's the fancy brevity. Try to use brevity. And so anyway, thank you all from the bottom of my heart for your compassion, for your generosity. I'm still facing felony charges in North Dakota. I know that they are trying to send me back to prison. I'm under fire all the time, but I've lived my life in this fire the past 4 years. And I only pray that the fire tempers me, tempers those who are meant to face it, and that fire rebuilds those in a good way, in the image and in the compassion of the Creator. And so with that, I want to thank you, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow.